I'm out in the backyard, and it rained last night. First time in 35 days. But in my backyard, you see that? That's where the ground got so dry, it just collapsed in. And it's going to take a lot of rain to cure that. You break your neck in that thing. We've got some holes around here. This ground, it just cracked. And that little dab of rain we got last night didn't do squat. Now we've had, over the years, a pretty nice yard out here. As you'll notice, it's degenerated down into what we might call a semi-arid area. Cracked, even with rain. And there's no grass left. Little dab, that brown stuff there, that's grass. But that really darker brown stuff is a thing they call sheep's head clover, which has birds all over the thing. And they get on my doggy, and Tiana has to brush it out of her. Now that green spot there is where the washing machine comes out of the wash house, and that stays green. But everything else is just dried and cracked, and I don't know. Yeah, word has it that the spring rains aren't going to amount to much, so it'll be drier and most more crackier, I guess. Look at that. There's a pretty good hole right there. In fact, it looks like that whole thing is ready to collapse in. So some of you folks live out where there's water to be had. It looks like we're converting into Death Valley here, but hopefully spring rains will come on and cure our problems. But as you can see, we're in a bad way when it comes to water. Well, good evening, folks. I haven't put two of these together this close in some time. But I read something in the paper that kind of got me thinking about things. And of course, yesterday, up in Connecticut, a barbarian, lunatic, he wasn't even French, he just a lunatic madman went to school, butchered 19 or 20 young little kids. But I won't talk about that today. You probably noticed I'm trying to run two pieces of video together. The previous one, I was out in my backyard showing the holes in my backyard. My backyard looks like the Gobi Desert. We haven't had any really appreciable rain around here since last April, really. We had a little bit last night, that quarter inch, just enough kind of makes things muddy. And prior to that, there hadn't been any rain, I think, for 32 days. Let me show you something. Yeah, that's that glass ice water. I purchased this. But my guess is that this ice and the water all come out of what we call the Trinity Aquifer. Under Texas, there are flows, and they come out of the Rocky Mountains from the snowpack up there. There's aquifers that flow under Texas, and Texas really gets a very large percentile of its fresh water from these aquifers. We do have ground level reservoirs where they've dammed up all the rivers. I don't know how many rivers. There's quite a few long rivers that flow through Texas, the Brazos, the Trinity, the Sabine's over in Louisiana, but there's a bunch of them. And they've dammed them up and made ground level reservoirs. But in the last 5 years, the waterfall, rainwater, has been so sparse that from year to year, these reservoirs, some of them have gone dry. There's one there, an article in the paper I was reading, 140,000 acres, some such thing. 14,600 acre lake with 108 feet deep. Thing dried up. That's a lot of drying up. I've gone over here to Lake Whitney. I've had previous videos, and it showed Whitney 30 feet down. I mean, I was standing down, down in the lake, literally shooting up at where the border of the lake should be. It's getting that way again this year. Last year we had up until April, say from January through April, had a very wet spring, and the lakes all came back. But they're going down again. There was a picture of Lake Arlington over, it's up north of us here. And a lot of people had boat docks that were way out of the water. The water's about 60 feet from the boat dock. I think Lake Arlington, they don't get some rain, it's gonna go dry. And that's at least a good portion of water source for a city of 300,000 people. Anyway, we need a solution to this. We need a way to make water available even if it doesn't rain. There's a statistic that I read once again, actually on the web. Of course, I know the earth is covered, it's about 70% covered with water. 25% land, 70% water. But the median depth of the water in that 70% is 12,200 feet. That's that's like 3 miles almost. 2.5 miles deep straight down. The earth is covered to an average depth, 70% of it, with 12,200 feet of water. Problem is, of course, it's salty water. And we need the solution, of course, to water shortage is desalinating the Gulf down here. I read once again the first permanent seawater desalination plant is scheduled to open on the shores of South Padre Island in 2014. Also understands the city of San Antonio has plans to set up a desalination plant down there and run pipelines into their watering system. They'll never run out of water. Now, it might be a little more expensive, but never. Impossible. I don't know what we'll do with all the salt. Because, of course, when you desalinate seawater, one of the byproducts is salt. But I suspect we'll figure out a way to make that work too. I know that over in the Middle East, the Saudis, Kuwaitis, all those people, all their fresh water comes out of desalination plants. And I mean, they're not hurting for water at all. They, if you look down on them from satellite view from space, you see these big green rings. Of course, it's those walking irrigators that you'll see them up on the high plains. You know, they'll have an outlet in the middle, and then it'll come up, and then the thing will be out there half, 3/4 of a mile, and it'll have sprinkler heads on it. And as those sprinkler heads, shoot the water out, they'll walk this thing around. And problems with the ones up in the high plains and Kansas and whatnot, so they're in the Ocala Aquifer. And my understanding is that I think that the aquifer up there is anywhere from 20% to 50% depleted. Excuse me. So once again, there'll come a time when they're going to be looking for water. So my suggestion is that the United States, we're into green power and windmills and solar panels and all this for our energy needs. But we're going to run out of water a long time before we run out of usable energy. And we need to start ASAP along our coast. And we have lots of coasts, up and down the East Coast, up and down the West Coast, along the Gulf Coast, and start desalinating seawater and back flushing it into these reservoirs and the items that we have that store. We have lots of lakes and stuff. Of course, the Great Lakes. We could probably drain them down in a hurry if we used them for irrigation. They'd be gone. Might take a while, but we could back flush water into these reservoirs that are going dry. We would never be short on water. So, my thought for the day is, let's get to it, spend the money, start desalinating the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, we're not going to hurt it. I mean, the thing is, it's probably 12,000 feet deep out there in the middle. I mean, what pediddling little amount of water we would take out for our purposes would be called chump change. So we need to, as a nation, start dedicating ourselves to setting up to desalinate the water and see to it that we have plenty of fresh water for irrigating our center of our country. We're the food basket of the world. And of course, drinking water. I know that Lake Mead, if you've ever seen a picture of Lake Mead behind Hoover Dam, this silly thing's like 100 feet, maybe more. It looks like somebody went in there with a whitewash brush and went around the side of it. What that is the bleached banks where the water used to be. And at the rate it's going, Lake Mead will be dry in 20, 30 years. Except for the river, of course, Colorado River flows into it. Anyway, desalination's the answer. Let's get her done. And let's see, I can't think of another thing except that dwarf that went into that school. I can't even think of his name. It's been on TV, ballyhooing him. I hate to say it, but I wish they'd shut up about it. The guy, although he's dead, he's getting more glory, Hoop-dee-doo, this guy went in and killed 20 people. Just shut up about it. Can you imagine being a parent of one of those kids and seeing the networks and the news, just going on and on and on about this guy? Got to stop it. Anyway, have a good one. Good evening.